Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to go over how you can convert dates from day month year into month day year and also vice versa. The process works the same. So in front of me I've got some dates for March, and so you can see they're in day month year format. So it goes 1 through to 13, and so obviously if I'm wanting to convert it to month day year, this 3 needs to swap positions with the 1 and do the same thing for all these other instances. Now, the one tricky part to watch out for when you're trying to convert dates is that you may get a mix of both text and date values, and here's why. Like if I were to get this data in the format that it's in, Excel will recognize some of these as being date values and some as text. Because if I stretch this out, you'll notice this value here, it aligns to the left. That tells me that this is a text value. And so you may be wondering why Excel's recognizing this one as a text value but not these other ones. And the reason because, there's only 12 months in a year. So these values, 12 and 3, it could be either a month or a day value. So regardless of if it's in the wrong format, Excel might still recognize it as a date. Whereas 13/3/2023 is recognized as a text because, in my regional settings, it's month, day, year, and Excel notices that, there's not 13 months in a year, so this has to be a text value. So this is part of the issue with converting these is, in essence, you need 2 ways to be able to handle this. One for when your values are in a text format like this, and one for when they're in a proper date format. So there's 2 formulas that you can use, but you can combine them together to make one formula that addresses all these issues. So I'll go over that. So I'll start with, I'm going to say the more difficult one, and that's converting the text values. Now in the past, you may have had to use a combination of mid, len, left, and right functions to pull in, to parse out the data that you need to make this work. But thankfully, Excel has a relatively new function called text split. And what it will allow you to do is select the text value. Now, it has to be a text value. And then use a delimiter to break it into columns. So use a slash. I close this out. And now it breaks that out nicely. So you don't have to worry about parsing anything out. Now, this doesn't work on actual date values. Because as you can see, it's not recognizing the slashes, right? Even if I try to apply the formatting, it's not recognizing because technically this is a date value, this is a numerical value. So it's only displaying slashes. There's not actually slashes in the value. So that's where it gets a bit tricky. So this formula, this text split, it breaks out the information that I need. But that being said, I don't want to create another formula to then reference these different columns, right? I want to be able to put them all into, a single formula. So let's break this out into pieces. So again, I'm trying to convert it into month, day, year. So let's say I want the month, day, and year fields broken out. So to do this, I'm just going to show you how we can do this. So I'm going to use this text split function again, except what I'm going to also do is wrap this inside of an index function. So the index is going to take that array, and I can specify the row and column number that I want from this array. So as you can see, it's all in one row. So I just specify 1 for the row number. Now the column number, this is going to be, do I want the 13, the 3, or the 2023? Now, because I want the month value, I want that second column, number 3. So I change that to 2, copy down. So I've got the number 3. So just in that one index formula, I've got the number 3. I can copy this down, and now for the day, I'm going to need to adjust this so that it grabs the first column, that 13. And the same thing for the last one, for the year. I'm just going to change this column number to a 3, because that's the third column in that array. So as you can see, I've broken it out now, so I've got month, day, year correctly set up. So now what I can do is group this all together into one formula. And that's going to be using the date function. So let's break this out to make this easy to follow, because this formula is going to get a little complex, so I'm going to break it down into pieces. So the date function has a year, month, and day argument. So for instance, we can grab the year, the month, and then the day. So really easy. We've converted it to month, day, year. But the problem is, again, we don't want to be referencing all these cells. So an easy way when you're making these complex formulas is you can break it out into smaller steps. And then once you've got these values, like we've got cell C19 here referencing the year. So let's pull that value from C19, copy it, minus the equal sign, and then put it in place of C19. Right? Now we're no longer dependent on that cell anymore. Repeat the step for the day and make sure we put that in the right, or even the day is going to be the last one. And now we're down to just one value here. Copy this as well. So this is a lot easier, and this way you don't get lost in your formula. So even though it looks terribly complex, it's actually the same formula repeated. Well, it's not terribly complex, but still it's got a lot of pieces in it. And by breaking it out, you can see we've done that. We've cleaned it up nicely. So now we can get rid of this. We're no longer dependent on those. And now, nice and cleanly, we've done that. And so let's say we added another value of 14/3/2023. Now, if I copy this down, the formula should work properly, and it's converted it to month, day, year. So easy enough. And so whether you're converting from month, day, year, or to day, month, year, whatever direction you're converting in, you can still use this text split function. The only thing that's going to change is this column number here, right? So you may flip these around. You may have a 2 here instead of a 3. If you're doing day, month, year, if your regional settings are day, month, year, and you've got the data in month, day, year, then you just need to rearrange it differently. But basically the text split function is going to be able to do that parsing for you. Now, again, this isn't going to work for these ones. This is going to give us an error because it doesn't work. So for these date values, this is actually a lot easier, because with Excel recognizing this as dates, we can use different functions to get the year, month, and day values. So again, let's do the same thing. Have a year, month, and day value. And now I can use the year function to get the year that relates to this, because remember, Excel's recognizing it as belonging to 2023 correctly. The month function will give me the month value, and then the day function will give me the day, right? So it's giving me the third, it's technically giving me the right values in the wrong slots is what's happening here. So the year 2023 is fine. The month value it's saying is 1 because it's recognizing, again, my settings are month, day, year. So it's recognizing that first value is going to be the month. The next value is going to be for the day, even though that's not correct. So here again, we can fix this again using the date function. Except for the year now, we're pulling in this value. For the month value, we're not actually pulling in what the month function gave us because the data is incorrect. So we need to actually pull that day value because that relates to that month position, right? So we actually want that as the month. And then for the day, referencing that formula. And now we flipped it again in a month, day, year. And just as I did before, I'm going to copy these formulas back in their proper places. So for the year function, we had that first one for the year. That one's taken care of. Then, referencing F5 for this value here. So let's copy this cell. And so this is the part where you just want to make sure, you just want to double check that you're putting things in the right place, because this is where it can get a little bit confusing as to what you're copying into where. But as you can see, the process is fairly straightforward. We're just basically moving the data around from one place to another. So now if I copy this down, I've completed my conversion. Now I'm still not done here, because the thing is, if you've got a range of dates, like let's say we're going years or months, whatever the case may be, you don't want to have to be going, okay, for the first 12 days of the month, you have to use this formula, and next you have to use another one. So we can solve this using a simple if statement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this formula, and then in this first formula, what I'm going to do is use a function called isText. Okay, so it's going to check if this value is a text, right? And let's actually add an if function before that. So let's say if this is text. So if it's true, it's going to return a true value. And if it's true, then I want to use my formula for converting text values. So I'm going to copy and paste that formula in there. If it's false, I'm going to treat it as a date value. Now, the one thing I just need to update is instead of B15, I'm going to be referencing B3 so that it's referencing the right cell. And then once that's done, then I'll have a formula that's going to work in both instances. So now if I'll delete this and I'll copy this all the way down, you can see now regardless whether it's reading as a date or as a text, I'm able to convert this properly into the right format. So here I've got day, month, year, and here I've got month, day, year. And just by using this formula, and although it may look a little bit complicated, if you follow the steps that I did where you break it onto smaller chunks and then group it back together into one big formula, that'll make it a whole lot easier for you. So a quick recap. One thing we're doing is checking for the text value, because if it's a text value, we need to parse it out, and we can use the text split function to do that. And so just using a slash, we can cut it up into the different pieces, and then using the index function, we can determine which column we want. So do we want the third piece, the second piece, or the first piece? And again, this is going to depend on your regional settings. Mine are month, day, year. So if yours are day, month, here, and you're receiving values in month, day, year that you need to convert, then what you'll be doing is swapping these values around. You'll have a 2 here and a 3 here, right? So the year is going to be the same because that's going to be in the same location. Or actually, sorry, the year is in the first one, so that's going to stay the same. But the month and the day values are going to be swapped around. So 1 here and a 2 here if you're doing from month, day, year into day, month, year. So again, it's just something to keep an eye on for. Make sure you're pulling in the right values. And as you test it, you'll figure out if you've got something in the wrong place, because obviously it won't look right. And then lastly, for the date values that are reading in the proper date format, such as these ones, the values that have nothing greater than 12, then this is just really just using the year, day, and month function, and moving those around to make sure that they are in the proper slots. And then once you've done that, you have a formula that you can reuse and for all your calculations. And obviously you can use this one as well that is ready to go. And this should work for whether you've got dates in text format or reading as date values. So hope you found this video useful, and thank you for watching.